procedure. There was no petition to cause that change. There was no motion. There was no complaint from anybody. This is unprocedural. It is illegal. So as far as I'm concerned, what those three judges did is really a fudged attempt to perverse the rules of justice and creating a situation where, as we stand now, we submitted our petition within the constitutional time of 7 days after the declaration of the win. And the Crown Court mismanaged the time and process deliberately, and then called time out. Our petition has not seen the light of day, never been heard. Our right to be heard.
Why did the judges change their mind?
They're corrupt. Corruption, political undue influence from the ruling party, the president in particular, then presidential candidate, PF, and indeed, just maybe incompetence as well. And unfortunately, the chairman or the president of the Constitutional Court failed to provide leadership, which leadership would have basically not allowed that matter, which to me is just a story, which they read, to see the light of day, because it was not on the table. It was not a motion for discussion that Monday.
Then what position does this place the country's judicial system in?
First, it's a constitutional crisis. Absolute constitutional crisis. Emanating from the fact that the Constitutional Court selectively decided which matters to give attention to and which not. What do I mean? Upon submission of a petition, the law, the Constitution is very clear that two things amongst many should happen. The two important things. First one, no one gets sworn in as president. The second one, automatic, it should happen, is that the president-elect, in this case, Lungu, should have handed over the presidency to the Speaker of the National Assembly. They obliged on the first one, they did not on the second. That's a constitutional breach. In order to enforce that to happen, we put a motion to the Constitutional Court. And the Constitutional Court never rendered a ruling, strangely, on this matter. Considered it as minor, but yet it's fundamental, because it would have allowed the petition to be given fair treatment. No undue pressure from somebody who was acting as president when he wasn't supposed to act in that position. Secondly, now to the main matter. This facade, this whole circus of rendering a ruling without motivation has now created a constitutional crisis. One, in the sense that as we stand today, there is no ruling of the Constitutional Court. Of what kind, whatever kind, other than the Friday midnight ruling that the petition be heard. Our right to be heard must be respected. Secondly, in that fudged ruling, there is no explicit expression that Lungu was duly elected as president. Because the Constitution says once the petition is submitted, it's heard and determined. In the determination, there must be an explicit expression, either one of these should apply. That the president-elect was duly elected, there was no such declaration in that fudged ruling. Or that another candidate won. In this case, we believe we won the election. Nothing was said. Thirdly, that nobody won the election, and therefore a rerun should be occasioned. Nothing of these three explicit requirements of the Constitution are expressed in the fudged ruling. So as we stand today, there is no declaration that Lungu was elected president, which would have caused or triggered the inauguration. This inauguration is illegal, is unconstitutional. He never won the election. We believe we won the election, but our petition was never heard. So there's a crisis, a constitutional crisis, created partially by President Lungu, elect, so to say, but also by the conduct of the three judges in the in the Constitutional Court. And I think thirdly, by the inability of the President of the Constitutional Court to provide leadership in that court.
What sort of certainty can Zambians have over their future then, if that is the status quo of the judicial system?
Well, first, we have a constitution which has not been respected by those who swore to respect the constitution. Amongst them, top on that list is Mr. Lungu. Secondly, is the men and women in robes who swore to protect the constitution as they served in the judiciary. And they are the ones, those three, that led to the crisis that we had. President Lungu misbehaved. President-elect Lungu misbehaved. They should have executed their duties by controlling the misdemeanor of President Lungu. Effectively, what President Lungu did, if I may digress, is treasonable. He would have viewed that if Judge Animwe Wastali, Judge Palani Mulonda, Judge, indeed, Mulenga Mungeni, had conducted themselves properly. So we have a constitutional crisis. Now, if the fundamental law of the land is in a crisis, how can the subsidiary laws apply to citizens? Secondly, there's erosion of confidence by citizens in the judicial system, the judiciary in particular, the judicial system in general, but the judiciary and the judges in particular. And it means now we're drifting to the law of the jungle. You cannot govern a country without the rule of law, without the constitution. So as we stand today, we have the rule of the jungle, we have a breakdown in the rule of law, and we have a failed state. Citizens tomorrow can decide to do what they want to do. Who will have the moral and constitutional and legal right to superintend, to control them? Nobody, because the constitution is broken.
So what now? Do you have a next move? What are you going to do?
We have many things we're considering. I guess the truth is that our election was stolen. We resolved, we decided not to go in the streets, but to follow a decent and civilized way. The recourse we took was to go to court. And the Constitutional Court's conduct, shall I put it, misconduct, has shut the doors of justice in our faces. So now we are placed in a corner. We are deciding how to move from here. Series of discussions are going on, not just amongst ourselves as citizens, or indeed as members of the UPND, but in the region. This is a topic of discussion in the countries around us today, in the world today, because Zambia is supposed to be a haven of peace and stability and democracy and constitutionalism. But this is irretrievably broken today. So we have to consider how to progress. Because somebody says to me, oh, you must look into the 2021 elections. On what basis? You have an electoral commission which is supposed to manage the elections, but actually became a tool of rigging the elections. You have a ruling party which has brought thuggery, violence, deaths around elections. We've never experienced this. It's the first time in many years, especially post-1991, post the one-party state era. We've had 5 presidents or more that have passed through. We've never had this violence. We've never had these killings. It means the character occupying the presidency is the one who has brought this type of conduct, which is negative. So now, if you were saying you go to you look into the 2021 election, what are you going to do in that election? Your freedom of movement is curtailed, freedom of association, your basic fundamental right of expression is taken. The media has been closed. Media freedoms, post the leading private print independent media has been closed. Movie television has been closed. Compound radio has been closed. You have no media space. Then you have brutal, ways of managing citizens by this government. including thuggery and killings. You also have a judiciary that has been wrapped or wrapped itself. What are you left with? The arms of government, the executive is brutal. Parliament, of course, will not provide its leadership in lawmaking. Even if it did, the compliance to these laws, as we have seen in the Constitution, have been abrogated. The executive, I've talked about it. But now you have the fourth estate, the media, is gone. So what elections can you participate in? What platform? Who is going to manage those elections? Unless there's a fundamental reform and change in the way this country is run. You cannot have free, fair, transparent and credible elections in this country. It's not possible.
And just as a final thought, then, is there anything more that you want to get across, that you want to add?
My message to the people of Zambia is that your country has been overrun by a dictatorship. A dictatorship led by Lungu. Your country has been destroyed in terms of the rule of law. Your constitution has been wrecked. Your media space is gone. Human rights are gone. The right to be heard is a human right, is a fundamental human right. It's been taken away from you. You have to fight for your rights. That's a logical thing to do as citizens of this country. Your rights, retrieve your constitution, retrieve your democracy, and the rule of law. For the region and the international community, I am shocked that us who behave in a civilized way, who don't go in the streets, we receive no attention. Us who have not created streams of blood, deaths, more than what were occasioned by the ruling party, nobody listens to us. What message are you sending to African democrats? You are saying there's no space for you until you start fighting in the streets, until you start killing each other. That's when attention will come to you. This is unacceptable. Where are you, SADC? Where are you, African Union? Where are you, United Nations? It now clearly looks like all these agencies come to observe elections as just pastime, waiting to pack up their bags and go back to their homes and write a report. Maybe a report was already written before they landed in Zambia. The template was already written based on the Uganda election, maybe based on another election. You killing democracy in its infancy. You're not helping Africa. You're not helping the economic and social case. Because today Africa needs leaderships that respect the rule of law, that will foster economic development for social value, jobs, food for our people, clean water, electricity, affordable electricity, for opportunity, business opportunity. That's what Africa needs today. But this conduct of the international community, regional community, of course, dictators in our countries, is driving Africa in only one direction, back to military coups, back to the dark days of gun running, back to the days of big men with weapons. I don't want to be part of that. I want to be part of the new Africa that respects human rights, the rule of law, and focuses on economic and social development to uplift the living standards of our people. Look at this place. Africa is so rich. But next to these riches live poor people. What is the missing link? The missing link, the missing commodity is the quality of leadership. That's what we intend to offer to Zambia, and to be part of a new breed of African leaders that will focus on opportunity for its people, for our people. Amidst wealth, live poor people. It's a tragedy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's just, if you can just